Now, rudeness and pettiness on the rise in work environments. According to the Society for Human Resource Management, 66% of U.S. employees have experienced or witnessed incivility at work within the past month. Anton Gunn, CEO of 937 Strategy Group and former senior advisor to President Barack Obama, joins us to talk about this trend. So when we take a look at workplace incivility, first of all, for the viewer, explain exactly what that is and how bad it's becoming.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. First, let me say workplace incivility is a big word, but let's boil it down to disrespect in the workplace, where people are being mistreated by their colleagues and their coworkers in the workplace is a simple way to define it. And so many people experience it every single day at work.
Now, why do you think we're seeing an increase as of late? I think your recent study from a human resources management group indicated 66% of U.S. employees have experienced or witnessed incivility at work within the past month, and another 57% within the past week. So why are we seeing so much now in the workplace?
Well, we have to think about the context that work has dramatically changed since the pandemic. People's tolerance level is much shorter. People are more focused on taking care of themselves, and sometimes that creates friction in the workplace. And what we found in our State of Workplace Injustice study, that 66% of people experience all kinds of hostility in the workplace in the last year. Sometimes it's ostracism, sometimes it's incivility, other times it's just outright aggression and abuse. And so the real important thing here is to understand that it's more rampant than we've ever seen, and there's a massive economic cost to how people are being mistreated in the workplace.
And you have just given us some examples of incivility in the workplace, but you also point out some very basic examples that you have had and you have seen that people have been through, from gaslighting to workplace gossiping. All could be harmful to you on the job.
They're incredibly harmful on the job. And sometimes it's even more mundane than that. Just remember that when you create cliques at work, that isolates someone. When you decide to leave a person off an email who should be on an email, or you don't invite them to the happy hour, you're creating an environment where people feel like it's uncivil, they feel unjust, and that allows them to make a decision that I don't want to be a part of this group. But they may not quit their job, they may just disengage. And the economic impact of them disengagement is really significant on loss of productivity and loss of value to the employer.
Now, when we talk about that incivility, like a happy hour or an event after work, and you're a coworker, what if the coworker says, look, it's not my job to make sure you're okay? I would say it's a supervisor's job or the manager's job, but is that the responsibility of your coworkers to make sure you're okay?
Great question. I will say to you that it's everybody's responsibility, because think about it. When we work together, we're working as a team. No one really works by themselves anymore. And so you're only strong as the weakest link on your team. So it is everybody's responsibility. I would say a disproportionate part of their responsibility is on the supervisor. And we found in our research study that supervisor mistreatment was one of the things that really makes people disengage more, that they get this level of unfairness and disconnection from their supervisors. But overall, I would say every employee has a responsibility to make sure that their teammates are included, particularly if you all want to achieve the goals that you set out as a business.
Now, when you say workplace injustice, that seems to be bigger than just gaslighting someone at work. So when you say workplace injustice in the environment of incivility, what is that on the job?
Yeah, the easiest way for me to give you an example of what workplace injustice looks like is that, let's say in the workplace, you get chewed out for something that you really didn't do, or you get blamed for something that didn't happen. And you have a colleague or coworker who saw it all go down and know that you didn't have anything to do with it, but they choose not to step up and say, hey, this is not right. So it's like when your colleagues don't speak up on your behalf, it's easy for people to feel like that this is unfair, and you contribute to an unfair environment by not saying anything about it. Now, employees don't say anything about it because they are afraid to be retaliated against. And sometimes they don't want to be the focus of the attention, so they sometimes sit by. But to all employees, that says this is an unfair, unjust place to work, and therefore I'm going to disengage, I'm going to quit, or worst case, they start to commit these counterproductive workplace behaviors.
Now, when we talk about women and minorities in the workplace, what did your progress report show on those accord?
Well, it's not surprising that women and people of color experience more injustice than the average person, that they tend to experience it in sometimes of microaggressions. People discriminate against their gender or their gender identity or sexual orientation or the color of their skin. So it's a higher level propensity of injustice that happens to people of color and women, but overall, it happens to everyone. This is a people problem. When 66% of all employees are experiencing it, we know that it's a people problem.
And of course, we'll continue this conversation right after the break, so don't move. Just like that, we're back. We continue our conversation about the 3 Gs: gossiping, gaslighting, and gatekeeping in the workplace. Take a look. And when you have all of these problems happening in the workplace, on the job, what would be your advice to management and to the average worker in order to improve the environment that you're working in?
Well, Isaiah, this is going to seem very simple, but it is honest in the feedback. The number one thing an employer or a supervisor can do when an employee reports injustice is to actually do something about it. Our study showed that 83% of employers do nothing about it when employees report injustice. Only 17% actually respond. So the first thing is
that's a high number. That's a high number.
Incredibly high, because most people believe that their employer are never going to do anything about it, and it gets validated when the employer never steps up to stop things from happening. So the first thing is to respond. The second thing you can do is to invest in training your leaders on what to do and how to do it and when to do it. We know that middle management is where most people are supervised, but most middle managers haven't been trained or equipped to know how to intervene or how to speak up and how to raise things up the food chain, up the flagpole, if you will, if there's a challenge. And the last thing that I would say that every employer needs to do is to increase their ability for people to report.
Now,